The programs are, they're more lengthy now. So what people do is they come, they do some self-study for the first month, then they have 2 half days with me, and then they have another month, and then they have another 2 half days with me, and then we do it again. And so we're really taking them through this journey to explore some of this. Now, you don't need specialist training to be working with the autonomic nervous system. Most of you are doing it naturally without necessarily realizing it. Yeah, and just a little extra knowledge, because I mean, heavens, there's people that like the trauma-informed thing is like it's out there everywhere, from and some of it being done very well, some of it. But I mean, yes, I've got quite a lot of background in this kind of field, but what I've taken from that is what you actually can within your scope of practice do very well. So, for example, recognizing right from the beginning, this patient is either hypo-responsive or hyper-responsive before they even come in. So you might have had a treatment plan, but it's not going to be relevant today. And if you stick to the plan, then both of you are going to get to the end of the session not very satisfied. So that's number one. Number two, how can we start to help someone to self-regulate enough to be able to engage with what you want to do? Because unless the nervous system is actually, in a calmer, more receptive state, you cannot expect change. So, and I see this over and over again with people, that an athlete I'm working with at the moment has had years of problems and has got to the point where, I mean, he's an Olympic finalist level athlete, but he's now not able to function. He's had all the normal stuff, but the overwhelming impression when he's sitting in front of me is he is so stressed he's virtually levitating. And it was so interesting. I did all of his objective tests, just like you always would. He had a particularly painful hip. I tested the hip. It was very restricted. But in that time, I needed to give him the most important thing for him. And that was actually to sort out the breathing, because he couldn't have any kind of center without having intra-abdominal pressure. So it's going to work on a mechanical sense. I'm particularly going to help him breathe down into his pelvic floor, which for men can have the most profound effect on chronic hip problems. I've seen such a lot of that. But it's also working on him autonomically. And so interestingly, he came back a couple of days later and his hip range was great. Hadn't treated the hip, just gone through the autonomic nervous system. Yeah. That's where he holds his tension. Yeah, I don't have to go into all the whys and wherefores of his family history and his childhood. It's not my business and not my scope of practice. But what I can do is understand how the breathing mechanics can address certain holding and tension patterns that are having a mechanical effect.